All right. Get ready to dive deep into improving your English listening skills.
This sounds exciting.
It is exciting. We've got a really cool podcast episode from someone who, well, they've been in your shoes trying to get better at understanding English.
Hmm.
And it's full of practical advice. I mean, straight from the horse's mouth, you know? This person's actually been there, done that.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think we're going to find some really useful nuggets in this deep dive. Some real gold.
I'm ready to dig in.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that struck me right away, just how much John, the guy in the podcast, his experience, just it resonates, you know?
Yeah.
Like he talks about how at first, just the speed of native speakers was just like whoosh, too much.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you throw in all the slang and idioms.
It's like a fire hose.
Exactly. He said it felt like trying to drink from a fire hose.
I can totally relate to that. Like, have you ever been at a party where everyone's talking super fast and you're just like, whoa, hold on a second?
Oh, yeah. You catch bits and pieces, but
It's like trying to grab smoke.
exactly. You can't quite grasp it all. So I'm curious, how did he deal with that overwhelming feeling? What were his first steps?
Well, he actually started small. He focused on content made for English learners, you know, things like podcasts or those YouTube videos
Right.
where they speak a little slower and clearer, you know, give you time to process.
Makes sense. So instead of jumping into the deep end, he sort of waded in slowly.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like easing into a pool, you know. Get used to the temperature before you do a cannonball.
I love that analogy. And it reminds me, you mentioned wanting to explore subtitles more. John used those a lot, too.
Oh, yeah, subtitles.
He said they're not just for accessibility, they're like a secret weapon for learning.
Oh, interesting. In what way?
Well, seeing the words as you hear them, it helps your brain connect the sound and the spelling.
Ah, I see. Especially for those tricky words, right?
Yeah, the ones with silent letters or weird pronunciations.
Now, I've heard of this graduated approach with subtitles. Have you ever tried that?
Oh, yeah, it's a classic. Basically, you start with subtitles on, get comfy with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as you start understanding more, try turning them off for like a minute or two.
Kind of like little challenges.
Exactly. And you slowly make those subtitle-free moments longer and longer.
So it's like training wheels for your ears.
Uh-huh. I love that. You got it.
That's a really cool way to think about it. Now, what about accents? I know that's something I personally struggle with.
Oh, accents are a whole other beast, right?
Yeah.
John talked about that too.
How did he? What did he say?
Well, at first, he could only understand American and British accents, which is pretty common, I think.
Yeah, that's where most people start.
Right.
Yeah.
But he realized he was missing out on, like, the whole symphony of English.
The diversity of it all.
Exactly.
Right.
So he started branching out. He listened to Australian podcasts,
Oh, wow.
Indian news channels, even interviews with people from different parts of the U.S., just to get used to the variety.
So it's like actively seeking out those accents, not just hoping you'll bump into them.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
more you immerse yourself, the more your brain adapts. Like, it's incredible.
It's like training your ear to be a global citizen.
You
Right.
got it. And you know what else John did that I thought was super smart?
What's that?
He would actually repeat what he heard out loud.
Oh, interesting. Why would he do that?
Well, think about it. When you repeat something, you're not just passively listening. You're engaging your brain on a whole other level.
Ah.
You're processing the sounds, the meaning, and then you're trying to produce them yourself.
So it's like a workout for your listening muscles.
Exactly. And it helps with pronunciation, too. You're training your mouth to make those sounds.
Now, I'm a big note taker, even when I'm not specifically trying to learn English. Do you think that helps with listening comprehension?
Oh, absolutely. Note-taking is a fantastic tool for anything, really. It helps you focus, pick out the important info,
Right.
and it's like you're creating a roadmap of what you're hearing.
Plus, you can always go back and review your notes later, you know?
Exactly. It's like a personalized study guide.
Yeah.
And speaking of actively engaging with what you're hearing, John also talked about the power of prediction.
Prediction, like guessing what's going to be said next.
Yep. It sounds simple, but it really keeps your brain sharp.
So it's like you're trying to solve a little mystery with each sentence.
Exactly. You're using context, grammar, vocabulary, all those clues to figure out what's coming next.
That's a fun way to think about it. And it probably helps you understand the structure of sentences better, right?
You got it. You're not just memorizing words, you're understanding how they fit together. And it makes listening a lot more engaging.
Okay, so where can people find the kind of content John was talking about? Did he mention any specific resources?
Oh, yeah, he had a whole list.
Yeah.
He mentioned a podcast called The English We Speak.
I haven't heard of that
It's
one.
made specifically for English learners. They cover everyday vocabulary, grammar, all in short episodes.
Oh, that sounds perfect for someone just starting out.
Yeah, it's very beginner friendly. He
Hmm.
also used audiobooks a lot.
Ah.
Yeah, those are great.
He liked that he could adjust the playback speed, slow it down if he needed to.
That's so helpful, especially when you're first starting out. Did he mention any TV shows? I feel like those can be really good for learning too.
He did. He mentioned Friends and The Office.
Oh, classics. I love those shows.
Yeah, they're great because the dialogues are pretty clear. The language is everyday stuff.
And they're hilarious, so you're learning and being entertained at the same time.
Exactly. It doesn't feel like work. But what if you want something a little more structured, like actual lessons? Did John talk about that at all?
That's a good point. Sometimes you need a bit more guidance.
Right. Well, he mentioned using language learning apps.
Oh, yeah, like Duolingo and stuff.
Exactly. He used Duolingo and LingQ.
Yeah.
He said they're good for learning vocabulary, grammar, the building blocks.
Yeah, it's like having a digital tutor in your pocket.
Totally. And he also used language exchange apps.
Ah, to talk to native speakers. Yep. He said it was a great way to get real-life practice and make some friends along the way.
That's awesome. Did he talk about going to any in-person events or anything?
He did. He recommended checking out language exchange meetups or joining conversation groups.
That makes sense. Sometimes it's good to get out there and actually use the language in a real setting, right?
Exactly. It's one thing to understand a podcast, but it's another to hold a conversation or, like, order food in English.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That can be a whole other challenge.
So John's whole philosophy was, be open to different approaches, find what works for you, and don't be afraid to try new things.
I love that. It's about making language learning an adventure, not a chore.
Exactly. And, one thing I really admired about John was his attitude. He wasn't afraid to make mistakes. He celebrated his progress. And he genuinely enjoyed the process.
Yeah, that's so important. Language learning can be a long journey, so you're going to find a way to make it fun, right?
Absolutely. And I think John's story really shows that, it's not about being perfect. It's about embracing the journey and enjoying the ride.
Well said. Now, John also talked about using music to help him with his listening skills. What was his approach there?
Oh, yeah. He loved listening to English songs, and he found it really helped with his rhythm, intonation, pronunciation.
Music is so powerful, right? It just gets into your head.
It totally does. And he would even sing along, sometimes read the lyrics while he listened.
Oh, that's a good idea. It helps you focus on the individual sounds.
Yeah, and it's fun. It does feel like studying.
I know some people find it helpful to break down the lyrics of a song, look up words they don't know, really analyze it.
That's a great way to learn new vocabulary and idioms. And speaking of finding what works for you, John was really big on choosing content that you genuinely enjoy.
Makes sense. If you're bored, you're not going to pay attention.
Exactly. So whether it's
Yeah.
podcasts, audiobooks, TV shows, music, whatever, make sure it's something you're interested in.
It's like if you love cooking, listen to a podcast about cooking in English.
Exactly. You'll be more motivated to understand what they're saying.
I love that. So it sounds like John's journey was full of great tips and a really positive mindset.
It totally was. And I think it's inspiring. It shows that anyone can improve their listening skills with the right tools and the right attitude.
Well, this has been a fantastic start to our deep dive. I feel like we've already uncovered so many valuable insights.
Me too. And I can't wait to delve even deeper in the next part of our exploration.
Stay tuned, everyone.
It's funny how music can just make learning feel so much easier.
Right.
It's like our brains just naturally latch onto those rhythms and melodies.
Yeah, no wonder we learned so many songs as kids. Those tunes just stick with you.
Totally. But okay, where do we go from here? We've talked about John's experience, active listening, music. It's a lot.
Right, right.
So let's get practical, really practical strategies for getting better at understanding spoken English.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right, so first things first, choosing the right content. I know it's tempting to jump into those super advanced podcasts or news, thinking you'll learn faster.
Yeah, I've definitely been there.
But it's imagine trying to run a marathon before you can even walk.
Oof, recipe for disaster.
Exactly. So how do you find that sweet spot, Challenging enough, but not overwhelming.
Yeah, what's the Goldilocks zone of English listening?
All right, so think of it as gradual steps. Start with content that's just a little bit above your current level.
Okay, so you understand most of it, but there are a few new words and phrases to learn.
Exactly. You want to be stretching those listening muscles, but not tearing them.
Makes sense. And I guess it's not just about the difficulty, but also is it actually interesting to you?
Oh, huge point. If you're bored out of your mind, your brain's going to check out no matter how easy the English is.
Right, right.
So don't be afraid to experiment. Try different podcasts, audiobooks, TV shows, even YouTube videos, whatever grabs your attention.
Make it fun.
Exactly.
All right.
All right, so remember those subtitles we talked about.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's dive a bit deeper there. Especially for you visual learners out there, subtitles can be a game changer.
Oh, tell me about it. Seeing the words really helps me understand, and even with pronunciation.
Right. But here's the thing. There's a bit of a debate, like, do you always use them or try to wean yourself off as soon as possible?
Yeah, I've heard both sides.
So it's all about balance.
Yeah.
Too much reliance on subtitles, they become a crutch.
Okay.
But used strategically, they bridge that gap between spoken and written English, which can be huge.
So what's the strategic way to use them?
Remember that graduated approach?
Yeah, with the training wheels.
Exactly. So start with subtitles on, get comfy with the sounds.
Uh-huh.
Then, once you feel okay, try turning them off for short bursts, like a minute or two. Then gradually increase those subtitle-free times.
Like little challenges to see how much you can understand on your own?
Precisely. It's like slowly removing those training wheels until you're writing solo.
I like that. Okay, so moving on to active listening. We talked about repeating out loud, which I've been trying. It's pretty cool.
It is effective, right? But there's another technique, note-taking. Might seem basic, but trust me,
Oh, yeah, I love taking notes, even for like meetings and stuff.
it works for everything. So jot down key points, new words, even questions that pop up.
Keeps you focused too.
Absolutely. And don't just mindlessly copy. Try to summarize in your own words, make connection.
Oh, like a little mind map of the information.
Exactly. You can even doodle or draw, whatever helps you visualize those concepts.
So it's not just passively listening, it's actively processing it.
You got it. And speaking of active, let's circle back to that prediction thing, remember?
Oh, yeah, trying to guess what they'll say next.
It's like a mini game, but it really sharpens your listening skills.
So, like, I'm using context, grammar, vocabulary, all those clues to figure out the mystery.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're a language detective. And the more you practice, the better you get at deciphering meaning. It's a real skill.
Sounds like a fun challenge. Okay, what about accents? We talked about listening to different ones, but that can be overwhelming.
It can be. You're not going to suddenly understand everyone overnight.
Right, right.
So start with accents that are closer to what you're used to.
So if I mostly hear American English, maybe try Canadian or British first.
Exactly. Baby steps. Then, as you get comfy, branch out further. Australian, Irish, South African, mix it up.
It's like training your ear to be a global citizen, able to understand all these different flavors of English.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to slow down the playback speed. Lots of apps let you do that.
Oh, yeah, I do that with audiobooks sometimes. It helps so much.
Right. Gives your brain time to catch up. And remember, the goal isn't to understand every single word. It's to get the main idea.
Yeah, that's reassuring. Sometimes I get stuck on a word I don't know and just completely lose the thread.
It happens. But focus on the big picture. Don't get bogged down in the details.
Okay, good advice. It's like, don't miss the forest for the trees.
Exactly. And speaking of resources, have you ever tried language learning apps?
I've heard of them, but never really used one. Are they any good?
They can be. They offer a more structured approach, vocabulary, grammar, all that.
Like a mini course you can do on your phone.
Yeah, kind of. Duolingo's popular, especially for beginners. It's got that gamified feel.
Oh, yeah, I've seen ads for that.
And Babbel's another one. It's more focused on conversation skills.
So if you need that extra guidance, apps can be helpful.
Right. But if you want something more interactive, where you actually talk to native speakers, try language exchange apps or websites.
Oh, yeah, like where you connect with someone who's learning your language and you help each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
HelloTalk's popular for that. You can text, send voice messages, even video chat.
That's cool. It's like having a language buddy in another country.
It is. And Tandem's another one. Similar idea, but you can also find language tutors there.
So if you're ready to practice those speaking skills, those apps are a great option.
Definitely. And don't forget about good old-fashioned libraries and bookstores.
Oh, yeah, there's something comforting about a physical book, isn't there?
Totally. Plus, you can find graded readers, books adapted for different levels.
Right, right.
Audiobooks on CD, even language learning software.
It's like a treasure hunt for language resources.
It is. And don't forget, libraries often have events, conversation groups, book clubs.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to have to check out my local library.
Do it. It's all about finding what works for you and making it a habit.
Well, I'm feeling pretty inspired to try all these different things.
Awesome. And remember, it's a journey, not a race. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate those small wins.
Speaking of patience, Any tips on how to stay positive when you're feeling stuck?
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Mindset is everything in language learning. So first, focus on the progress you are making, even if it feels tiny.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged when you only see what you haven't achieved yet.
Right, so celebrate those small victories. Learned a new word. Great. Understood a whole sentence. Amazing.
It's like giving yourself little pats on the back along the way.
Exactly. And surround yourself with positive people, other learners, online communities. Find mentors who can cheer you on.
It's like having a language learning support group.
Totally. And last but not least, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, I made plenty of
We
those.
all do, is how we learn. So laugh it off, keep trying, and remember it's about the journey, not perfection.
I love that. It takes the pressure off, you know?
It does. Language learning is about exploration, connection, personal growth. It's an amazing adventure.
Wow, that's beautifully said. I'm feeling really motivated to keep going.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So we've talked about content, techniques, resources, mindset. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
We have. And in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to get even more specific, talk about some real-world examples and how to make all of this work for you.
I can't wait. I feel like we've uncovered this treasure chest of tips and tricks,
Yeah.
and now we get to see how to actually use them.
Right. It's like, okay, we've got all these shiny tools. Now let's build something.
Exactly. It's so exciting to think about how much better my listening can get with all of this.
And that's what I want to focus on now.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to you, your goals, what you're hoping to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we've covered a ton of strategies, but ultimately, the best approach is what works for you.
It's like different people learn in different ways, right?
Exactly. Some people love structure. Some people need more flexibility.
Right, right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, think about which of these techniques really spark your interest.
Yeah.
Which ones feel like, okay, I can actually do this. I can make this a part of my routine.
I like that. It's about making it personal, finding what fits your style.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress, step by step.
Yeah, those small wins really add up over time.
They do. And, it's not just about the destination. It's about the journey itself.
Right, the experience of learning, growing, connecting with others.
Absolutely. So as we reach the end of our exploration here, what would be your, one piece of advice for someone just starting out on their English listening adventure?
That's a good question.
What would you tell them based on everything we've talked about?
I think I'd say be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Trust the process, and don't forget to have fun along the way.
I love that. Embrace those challenges, celebrate those victories, keep exploring, because there's a whole world of English out there waiting to be discovered.
Beautifully said. And to everyone listening, we're so glad you joined us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Keep practicing, keep learning, and remember, we're always here to cheer you on.
Happy listening, everyone.
Thanks for watching this video from Simply English, an educational channel for all ages and all stages. If you're new to this channel and enjoyed this video, please subscribe and press the like button. If you have any suggestions, please mention them in the comments section. Take care, and goodbye.